Michael was rushing to catch the last bus with his sick son when he saw her, a tiny 6-year-old girl sleeping alone on a cold bench, using cardboard as a blanket. 3 days she'd been waiting for her mother to return. Michael's next decision would change 3 lives forever. Before watching full story, comment below from where you watching, also like and subscribe for more stories. The rain was coming down harder now, each droplet hitting the pavement like tiny bullets of despair. Michael Rodriguez pulled his worn jacket tighter around his shoulders as he hurried down the empty street, his 8-year-old son Danny's hand clasped firmly in his own. It was nearly midnight, and they were rushing to catch the last bus home from Danny's emergency room visit. "Daddy, my ear still hurts," Danny whimpered, pressing his small hand against the side of his head where the infection had been raging for 3 days. "I know, buddy. The medicine will help soon," Michael said softly, though his heart ached knowing he'd had to choose between paying for Danny's antibiotics and buying groceries for the week. The antibiotics won, as they always did when it came to his son's health. As they approached the bus stop, Michael noticed something that made him stop dead in his tracks. There, curled up on the cold metal bench, was a little girl who couldn't have been more than 6 years old. She was using a torn cardboard box as a blanket, her tiny body shivering in the damp night air. Her clothes were dirty and too small, and her dark hair was matted against her head. "Daddy, why is that little girl sleeping outside?" Danny asked, his own pain momentarily forgotten. Michael's throat tightened. As a single father who had struggled through his own dark times, he recognized the signs immediately. This child was alone, abandoned, and in danger. "Stay right here, Danny," Michael whispered, approaching the bench slowly so as not to startle the girl. She stirred as his shadow fell across her, and when she looked up, Michael saw the most heartbreaking sight he'd ever witnessed. Her eyes were huge and frightened, like a wounded animal expecting another blow. There were tear tracks on her dirty cheeks, and her lips were blue from the cold. "Hey there, sweetheart," Michael said gently, crouching down to her level. "What's your name?" The little girl didn't respond, just pulled the cardboard closer to her chin and stared at him with those enormous, terrified eyes. "I'm Michael, and this is my son Danny," he continued, his voice as soft as a lullaby. "We're waiting for the bus too. Are you waiting for someone?" Still no response, but he could see her whole body trembling. Whether from cold or fear, he couldn't tell. Michael looked around the deserted street. No one else was coming. No parent rushing to collect their lost child. No guardian appearing to explain this nightmare. Just a little girl, alone in the dark, with nowhere to go. "Listen, honey," Michael said, his heart breaking with every word. "It's really cold out here, and it's not safe for a little girl to be alone at night. Do you have somewhere to go? Someone looking for you?" The girl shook her head almost imperceptibly, and Michael saw fresh tears beginning to form in her eyes. Without hesitation, Michael made a decision that would change all their lives forever. "Come with me," he said, extending his hand. "You can't stay out here. It's too dangerous and you'll get sick." For a long moment, the girl just stared at his outstretched hand. Then, so quietly he almost missed it, she whispered, "My name is Sophia." "Sophia," Michael repeated, a gentle smile crossing his face. "That's a beautiful name. Sophia, would you like to come home with Danny and me tonight? We have a warm place to sleep and some food." Sophia hesitated, then slowly reached out and took his hand. Her tiny fingers were ice cold, and Michael could feel how fragile she was, all bones and skin, clearly malnourished. "It's okay," he whispered. "You're safe now." The bus ride home was quiet. Sophia sat between Michael and Danny, still clutching that piece of cardboard like a security blanket. Danny, despite his own discomfort from his ear infection, kept trying to make her smile by making funny faces and telling her about his favorite cartoons. "I like SpongeBob too," Sophia finally whispered when Danny mentioned the yellow sponge, and it was the first time Michael saw anything resembling a smile cross her face. When they reached Michael's small apartment, he was suddenly embarrassed by how little they had. The furniture was secondhand, the paint was peeling in places, and there wasn't much food in the refrigerator. But it was clean, warm, and safe, and right now that's all that mattered. "Sophia, are you hungry?" Michael asked, watching as she took in her surroundings with wide eyes. She nodded hesitantly. Michael opened his nearly empty cupboards and found a can of soup and some crackers. As he heated the soup, he watched Sophia explore the small living room. She stopped in front of a photo on the wall, a picture of Michael and Danny at the park, both of them laughing. "That's us last summer," Danny explained, appearing beside her. "Daddy taught me how to ride a bike that day." "Where's your mommy?" Sophia asked quietly. Danny's face fell slightly. "She went to heaven when I was little. It's just me and Daddy now." Sophia nodded solemnly as if she understood loss far too well for someone so young. Over bowls of warm soup, Michael tried to learn more about Sophia's situation. Slowly, heartbreakingly, her story emerged. Her mother had left her at the bus stop 3 days ago, promising to come back. She said she just needed to find us a better place to live, Sophia explained, her voice barely above a whisper. She said to wait right there and not move. Michael's hands clenched into fists under the table. 3 days. This 6-year-old child had been waiting for 3 days, sleeping on a bench with nothing but a piece of cardboard for comfort. What about your daddy? Michael asked gently. I don't have one, Sophia said simply. Mommy said he went away before I was born. That night, Michael gave Sophia his bed while he slept on the couch. He lay awake for hours, staring at the ceiling and trying to figure out what to do. He couldn't just take her to child services in the morning. He'd heard too many horror stories about kids getting lost in the system. But he also couldn't just keep her without going through proper channels. By morning, Michael had made his decision. He called in sick to his job at the construction site, something he couldn't afford to do, but some things were more important than money. Then he took both children to the local police station to report Sophia as found and to start the process of becoming her temporary guardian. Officer Martinez, a kind woman with children of her own, listened to the story with growing concern. You did the right thing bringing her in, she said. We'll file a missing person report for her mother and start the process for emergency foster placement. Actually, Michael said, his voice steady despite his nervousness, I'd like to apply to be her emergency foster parent. She's been through enough trauma. She shouldn't have to go to strangers again. Officer Martinez studied Michael carefully. Mr. Rodriguez, I can see you care about this child, but fostering is a big responsibility. There are background checks, home visits, training requirements. I understand, Michael said. I'll do whatever it takes. She needs stability and she and Danny have already bonded. Please just give me a chance. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of paperwork, interviews, and home visits. Michael had to take time off work he couldn't afford, had to open his life to scrutiny from social workers, and had to prove he could provide for 2 children on his modest income. During this time, Sophia slowly began to come out of her shell. She and Danny became inseparable, playing together, watching cartoons, and even sharing Danny's small collection of toys. Michael watched as color returned to her cheeks and light began to return to her eyes. But the most magical transformation happened when Michael discovered Sophia's hidden talent. One evening while he was cooking dinner, he heard the most beautiful sound coming from the living room. Sophia was humming a melody, her voice pure and sweet as an angel's. When he peeked around the corner, he saw her teaching Danny a song, both of them sitting cross-legged on the floor. Sophia, that was beautiful, Michael said, sitting down beside them. Where did you learn that song? My mommy used to sing it to me, Sophia said, her smile fading slightly at the mention of her mother. Would you sing it again? I'd love to hear the whole thing. What followed was the most hauntingly beautiful performance Michael had ever heard. Sophia's voice filled their small apartment with a warmth and joy that had been missing for so long. Even Danny sat mesmerized, his mouth hanging open in wonder. Sophia, you have an incredible gift, Michael said when she finished. Have you ever had singing lessons? She shook her head. Mommy said lessons cost too much money. That night, after the children were asleep, Michael sat at his kitchen table with a pencil and paper, calculating and recalculating his budget. He was already stretching every dollar to its limit, but somehow, some way he was going to find a way to nurture Sophia's talent. 3 months later, the official adoption papers were signed. Sophia's mother had never returned, never even called the police to report her missing. The court granted Michael full custody, and Sophia Rodriguez officially became part of their family. The day the adoption was finalized, Michael took both children out for ice cream to celebrate. Daddy, Sophia said, the words still feeling new and wonderful on her tongue, am I really going to stay with you and Danny forever? Forever and always, Michael promised, pulling both children into a hug. We're a family now, and families stick together no matter what. But Michael's biggest surprise came 6 months later. He had managed to scrape together enough money for Sophia to start voice lessons with Mrs. Chen, an elderly music teacher who had agreed to reduce her rates after hearing Sophia's story. Sophia's talent blossomed under proper instruction, and Mrs. Chen was amazed by the child's natural ability. Michael, Mrs. Chen said after one of Sophia's lessons, I need to tell you something. There's a children's choir competition coming up, and I think Sophia should audition. The winner gets a full scholarship to the city's Performing Arts Academy. Michael's heart raced. The Performing Arts Academy was the most prestigious music school in the state, but it was far beyond their financial reach. "Do you really think she has a chance?" Michael asked. "I've been teaching for 40 years, Mrs. Chin said seriously. "I've never heard a voice like hers. She's special, Michael. Really special." The day of the audition arrived and Michael had never been more nervous. He sat in the auditorium with Danny, watching as dozens of talented children performed. Each one was good, some were very good, but when Sophia stepped onto that stage something magical happened. She chose to sing the same lullaby her mother used to sing to her, but this time, it wasn't about loss or abandonment. This time it was about hope, about finding family in unexpected places, about the power of love to heal even the deepest wounds. There wasn't a dry eye in the auditorium when she finished. The judges sat in stunned silence for a moment before erupting into applause. Sophia won not just first place, but a unanimous decision from all 5 judges. "Ladies and gentlemen," the head judge announced, "in my 20 years of judging these competitions, I have never heard anything like what we just witnessed. This young lady doesn't just have talent. She has the gift of touching souls through music." That night, as they celebrated at home with a pizza dinner, a rare treat in their household, Sophia looked at Michael with tears in her eyes. "Daddy, I want to tell you something," she said seriously. "What is it, sweetheart?" "That night when you found me at the bus stop, I had stopped believing in anything good. I thought maybe nobody in the world cared about kids like me. But you showed me that there are still angels and sometimes they look like daddies who work really hard and love their kids no matter what." Michael felt his own eyes filling with tears. "Sophia, you and Danny are the best things that ever happened to me. You didn't just find a family that night, you completed one." Years passed and their little family continued to grow stronger. Sophia excelled at the Performing Arts Academy, eventually earning a full scholarship to a prestigious music college. Danny, inspired by his sister's dedication, discovered his own passion for mathematics and science. But the most beautiful part of their story happened when Sophia was 16. She was performing in a citywide concert, singing a piece she had written herself about hope and second chances. In the audience, unbeknownst to Sophia, sat a woman whose life had been shattered by addiction and poor choices years earlier. A woman who had spent the last 10 years in and out of rehabilitation, searching for the daughter she had abandoned at a bus stop. When Sophia began to sing, the woman recognized not just the voice, but the melody, a lullaby she had sung to her baby girl years before everything fell apart. After the concert, she approached Michael in the lobby. "Excuse me," she said, her voice shaking. "That girl who just performed, is her name Sophia?" Michael's blood ran cold. He recognized her immediately from old photographs Sophia had shown him. "Yes," he said carefully. "Why do you ask?" "I'm her birth mother," the woman whispered. "My name is Carmen Martinez. I made the worst mistake of my life 10 years ago. I left her at that bus stop, and I've regretted it every single day since." Sophia, who had been signing autographs nearby, heard the conversation and slowly approached. "Sophia," Carmen said, tears streaming down her face, "I know I have no right to ask for your forgiveness. What I did was unforgivable. But I want you to know that I never stopped loving you and I never stopped hoping that somehow, somewhere, you were safe and happy." Sophia stared at the woman who had given birth to her, the woman who had left her alone and afraid on a cold night so many years ago. For a moment the auditorium seemed to hold its breath. Then Sophia looked at Michael, the man who had saved her, who had given her a home, a family, and the chance to discover her gifts. The man who had never once made her feel like a burden, who had worked extra shifts to pay for her voice lessons, who had cheered louder than anyone at every performance. "I forgive you," Sophia said quietly to Carmen. "I understand that sometimes people make mistakes when they're hurting. But I want you to know that the best thing you ever did for me was leave me at that bus stop, because that's how I found my real family." She turned to Michael and smiled. "This is my dad. He's the one who taught me that love isn't about biology, it's about showing up, every single day, and choosing to put someone else's happiness before your own." Carmen nodded through her tears, understanding that while Sophia had forgiven her, the chance to be her mother again was not something she could ask for or expect. "I just wanted to see that you were okay," Carmen said. "And you're more than okay, you're extraordinary. I'm so proud of the young woman you've become." As Carmen walked away, Sophia turned to Michael. "Dad, do you think we could help her? Maybe through the foundation?" Michael smiled. The foundation was Sophia's idea. A non-profit they had started to help homeless children and struggling single parents. It had grown from a small local charity to a statewide organization that had helped hundreds of families. Of course, Michael said. That's what we do. We help people find their way home. On Sophia's 18th birthday, as she prepared to leave for college on a full scholarship, she gave Michael a gift that would become his most treasured possession. It was a painting she had created, showing a man and two children walking away from a bus stop, with the words, "Sometimes angels drive buses, and sometimes they take buses, but the very best angels build homes in their hearts for children who need them most." Years later, when Sophia had become a world-renowned singer, she would always begin her concerts with the same dedication. "This first song is for my dad, who taught me that the most beautiful music in the world is the sound of a family loving each other unconditionally." And in the front row of every concert, there would be two men, Michael and Danny, now a successful doctor, cheering louder than anyone else in the audience. The little girl who had once slept on a bus stop bench with nothing but a piece of cardboard for comfort had grown up to touch millions of hearts with her music. But she never forgot that the most important song she ever learned was the lullaby of unconditional love, taught to her by a single father who saw a child in need and simply said, "Come with me." Because sometimes, the most extraordinary stories begin with the simplest acts of kindness. Sometimes angels don't have wings, they have calloused hands, tired eyes, and hearts big enough to make room for one more child who needs a home. And sometimes the best families aren't born. They're built, one act of love at a time, by people brave enough to say, "Come with me," to someone who has nowhere else to go.